Despite nearly 4 decades together, saying our vows 3 times, and divorcing twice, I never knew Jim at all. And I knew this even more so after doing research into dissociative identity disorder, known as split personality disorder also. I want you to stay tuned for part 32A when I share these things that I learned, and the terms within it just fit Jim perfectly. Okay, you might be thinking, why did I choose the condition dissociative identity disorder? I didn't choose it arbitrarily. If you've listened to the earlier episodes, you know that when I have shared readings over the years, psychic readings, Spirit has talked about that in regards to Jim and the things he suffers from. Spirit has mentioned several pretty severe mental illnesses. But fast forward a year later, summer of 2023, and I'm now transcribing a bunch of readings. And instead of 3.5 years, which it took to get all these readings, I'm doing it in like 4 or 5 months. So it was a condensed situation, taking in and trying to integrate all that information. But the impression I came away with is the man definitely has what we would in layman terms consider a split personality. He has other things you've heard about too in other episodes, but right now for the next this episode and 2 more, this is what we're going to talk about. It all spoke to me of the man that I spent 39 years with. So don't think I'm diagnosing him. I'm not assigning myself unearned abilities, unearned qualifications. That's not what I'm doing. But let me tell you what, I lived with the man for a long time. I masked a lot too. I only really woke up when I saw my first psychic medium, which was at the end of 2018. So if you're going to start this video series, I don't cover the whole shit ass marriage. I just cover the last 4 years we were together, when I was awakening and learning what was happening around me, coming out of like a coma, like a cocoon. I don't know, some kind of dark spell. Laugh if you want. I lived it. My kids lived it. It's real. So people who know me then and know me now can see a 180-degree difference in me. Okay, so going into this research and we're going to call it DID because it's a big mouthful, DID. I also did research on the other condition that it was very clear to me when I did the transcriptions of all the readings that Spirit had talked about what is now called in our layman terms malignant narcissism. Unlike DID, malignant narcissism isn't an actual diagnosis. It is something that is on the edge of being a psychiatric diagnosis. However, what it does is it's like if you see a Venn diagram where you have 2 circles, where they intersect is something different, a third thing. Well, you have the circle of narcissistic personality disorder. You have the circle of psychopath or psychopathy. And where they intersect, you have malignant narcissism. And in that, I learned all psychopaths are malignant narcissists, but not all malignant narcissists are psychopaths. Okay, that's another episode. That's going to be 32D. So with this research I did with DID, going into it, I'm kind of an academic person when I read stuff, and more so when I'm reading things I'm uncomfortable with. I dislike this immensely. So I gave myself something to focus on, and I had 3 questions that I hoped would be answered, and here they are. I'm just going to read them. It's windy, it's loud, and I'm kind of in a bad mood. Question 1, had Jim been spared extreme childhood harm, who would he have become? So partially I can answer this up front. My inclination is that Jim would have taken a job working in spaces where he found a lot of joy and amazement, not like the job as a cop and a paramedic he did for 27 years. Something like working in the outdoors as a park ranger or forest ranger, nothing involving animals because he's total crap with them, or maybe even worked as a basketball coach or a teacher. Question number 2. Was the totally irresistible guy I first met an alternate persona, a total fabrication, or was at least part of who I fell so hard and so fast for, the authentic Jim? I'll give you a 2-part answer on this. Part A, it's predicated on 2 things. A is my core impression of him at the time and how I felt at the depth of my awareness. That was visceral. And part B, what Peter, my psychic medium, related to me from Spirit in our first session, that Jim and I were meant to have a life together because for me, it served the purpose, a specific purpose and a spiritually driven one, that I know dark from light, and that I used my knowledge and experiences for the good of others further down the line when it was time for me to fulfill my life purpose. So that means if you're watching this video, if you've watched any of them, and much love to those who have watched them all up to this point, then you're on this journey with me of fulfilling my life purpose. This would be the third reading I had with Peter. It's from March 2019. Go back in the videos and find it. It's amazing. So making these videos, writing the book, and in doing these videos is like rewriting the book essentially. And I think it needed it. So now we have a train in the background. I hope you can hear this shit. So to answer part A of, was any part of the man that I met and fell in love with so hard and so fast, practically at first date, was any of him real, authentic? On our first date, I felt more strongly for Jim than any other boyfriend. It felt like a deep-seated longing, as if I had missed him from another time and another place. But at the same time, that longing was relieved by our meeting. And I felt that on our first date. It was very confusing. It was like a background theme music or something through the whole date. But I wasn't a super spiritual person at the time, so I couldn't identify it. It was like a toddler trying to understand betrayal. They can't really articulate it. Well, I couldn't articulate this deep-seated longing. I'm sure it was from another life. I have no doubt. Okay, so yeah, my belief is, yeah, I was shown a brief glimpse of Jim's true self. It had to have been so for me to feel as I did and to commit so fully to him and to us. Going on to the third question I had going into this research into DID and also MN, malignant narcissism. Question 3 is this: how would Jim's extreme mental and spiritual illnesses have manifested if he hadn't gone into law enforcement without access to the lethal knowledge, power, and autonomy he was afforded as a cop? I can only make such a guess after learning more about these afflictions themselves. So here we go. The book, I'll put it, I don't know, somehow I'll put it in the video, the name of the book. So it's like a bibliography. But basically, it was very uncomfortable. I hated doing the reading. It was a little depressing, but it gave printed words to much of what psychic medium Peter had been describing about Jim from day one. Okay, so DID is classified or defined as the following: the presence of 2 or more distinct personalities wherein at least 2 identities maintain control. The alternate personalities, we'll call them personas, alters for short, were created as the result of ritual harm from a very young age and by the same person, someone close to them, such as a parent or a caregiver. Number 3, the abuse was based on religion or the abuser's authority and included threats of additional violence or death or the punishment of a loved one. Number 4, an inability to recollect important personal information that's more extensive than can be excused by simple absent-mindedness, substance use, or a medical condition. And number 5, non-continuous narrative but terrific memory, by which the context of memories is fragmented, mismatched with the event. Our 4 kids have encountered some personality traits and just experiences with their father that are explained by some of these things I learned in this research, especially the last 2 things, number 4 and 5. And it made for some arguments, especially when they were teens. It was a bumpy ride. It was rocky. And I'm telling you, he became a cop in 1990, and it wasn't long before I regretted it. I didn't regret the money, the benefits, the lifestyle, not for 2 seconds. But a tiny part of me did notice exponentially as the years clicked on to past a quarter century, the job changed him, and I never should have green-lighted that. That was my call in 1988, and it was the wrong one. Okay, so from the very first case study in these books I read, I knew I hit a vein, a deep vein. My hands, so I had a physical, visceral reaction, and this is what it felt like. My hands ached as if immersed in ice water, and I felt lightheaded as I read about patients who had developed many of the same behavioral adaptations as Jim after having withstood years of extreme ritual harm. Bringing into sharp focus what I've been learning about Jim, especially since leaving him, was the chapter on forensic family relationships. Please join me in part 32B, where we discuss that.